The movie begins in OK City, where we see Officer Knight and his trusty dog, Greg, going through the city to chase down Petey, an evil super genius cat who frequently terrorizes the city. After a long search, their target Petey suddenly emerged from the sewers and drives his car towards a really high bridge. Officer Knight, knowing this will be very dangerous for him, tells Greg that if anything happens to him, that he should take care of his girlfriend Alice. Confidently, he crosses the bridge, and luckily for Officer Knight, Gray has a parachute which they use to land safely on a building top, but their car later fell off and gets damaged in the process. Petey suddenly passes them laughing, saying he won't have to worry about them anymore. Officer Knight and Greg looks back only to realizes that Petey left a bomb on the rooftop. A little flashback is shown where Petey plans alongside his assistant Butler to kill Officer Knight and Greg, who are the only ones stopping him from taking over the world. He describes Officer Knight as a tough cop with kungfu skills who has no brain, and Greg the dog is smart but his body is his weakness. That was how Petey figured out that the best way to kill them is with a bomb. Back to the present, Officer Knight tries to defuse the bomb. Greg tries to tell him to cut the blue wire, but Knight decided to cut the green wire because he believes green means go, so it should be the right one. This caused a massive explosion, and the two cops are both rushed to the hospital. Greg's whole body is injured, while Knight's head is bandaged up. In order to save their lives, a nurse suggests to the doctor to put Greg's head on Knight's body, and the doctor sees it as a perfect idea. A news reporter called Sarah gives a live report about how the doctors managed to save Officer Knight and Greg the dog by joining both parts of their body and creating Dog Man. Now Dog Man has become a beloved supa cop that helps citizens all across the city. Dog Man heroic activities are reported by Sarah hat off, but the chief of police gets angry because it's only Dog Man that gets all the credit for saving the city, while he goes unnoticed. Later on, Dog Man goes to see his girlfriend Alice, but realizes that she has moved out of the house and is even planning to sell it. The agent tells him that she moved into her new boyfriend house, because she can never date someone who is half dog and half human. On the other hand, while Petey thinks of ways or strategies to get rid of Dog Man, he suddenly gets an idea, and asks his assistant what does dogs hate? He finds out that dogs hate firecrackers. After a while, the chief calls Dog Man to his office and orders him to capture Petey by any means possible. So we see Dog Man avoiding many of Petey's evil schemes and sending him to cat jail so many times, only for Petey to keep breaking out using different methods. This puts the chief into serious trouble with the mayor, who shows up really angry for Petey escaping prison the 7th time, and wants the chief to fire Dog Man. The chief asks the mayor that the problem might not be from Dog Man but the cat jail, but the mayor picks offense from his words because her brother is the one running the cat jail. She threatens the chief that she wants Dog Man off the Petey case, and wants Petey captured as soon as possible. Even though the chief doesn't see it as being fair because Dog Man is the champ of catching Petey, the mayor makes up her mind and leaves saying Dog Man should be given something dumb to do, like his job. Dog Man returns home so sad, and he even cries because not only was he taken out of the case, but the girl he used to love also left him. Petey's assistant decides to quit working for him because of how he treats her. But Petey doesn't feel concerned at all, and figures out that if he's going to actually take down Dog Man, he is going to need another him, someone who thinks and acts like him. After a lot of research on his computer, Petey sees a cloning machine and decides to buy it to make a copy of himself to defeat Dog Man. The next morning, the chief contacts Dog Man to get to his office ASAP because he has another job for him. The chief reminds Dog Man about Flippy the fish which Dog Man once gave him for his birthday, but later got super smart after consuming a lot of brain dust, and also got psycho-telekinesis powers. Flippy the fish tried to steal a treasure chest thinking it was real money, but ended up freezing inside its fish bowl high up in the mountains before Dog Man showed up and crushed him, because he loves to roll over dead fishes. The chief brings out the corpse of Flippy the fish, and explains that the geniuses at the super awesome science center over there wants to study Flippy the fish dead brain, because of all his mental powers and stuffs, so he wants Dog Man to guard the fish as the experiment goes on. Sarah, the reporter who attends the science center, asks the scientist that isn't rebuilding a science kinetic evil fish dangerous? And as Petey watches on the news, the scientist assures Sarah that the fish cannot come to life again, unless someone steals him and flies him over the living spray factory and drop him in the smokestack where he might puncture a living spray gas tank, and be rendered alive. Petey jumps off from his chair as he just discovered a perfect way to take down Dog Man. Dog Man is tasked to monitor the security cameras in case Petey tries to steal the fish, and while he is warned by the chief not to mess this one up or he will lose his job, Petey had already sneaked in without them noticing and stole the fish. When the chief was done talking and leaves, Dog Man turns around to monitor the cameras but sees the fish has already been stolen. He sees Petey escaping with the fish using a gigantic flying vehicle, but Dog Man is not ready to give up. He pursues Petey using a drone from Sarah cameraman Seamus, but fails to catch Petey after getting an accident. Petey's plan is to reprogram the fish to destroy Dogman. After a while, Petey cloning machine arrives, and after he follows all the steps by inserting his DNA into the cloning machine, and presses the start button, things didn't go as he expected because instead of the machine creating an actual clone of him, it instead makes a little cat of himself. The little cat started to see Petey as his papa, which he doesn't like at all. He later names the cat Little Petey, and tells the little kitten that he is destined to be a villain and kill people, but the child is way too innocent to understand. Petey tells the little kitten to wait while he quickly goes for an evil mission, which is by bringing Flippy the fish back to life. The little kitten doesn't listen to him, and Petey has no choice but to take him along for his mission. The little kitten annoys Petey a lot when he keeps calling Petey Papa, and says he wants to do things kids do. When Petey arrives at a gas factory and was about to throw Flippy the fish inside a pipe to bring him back alive, the little kitten presses a button on his vehicle, which made the fish to fall into the wrong pipe, ruining his evil plans. Petey gets so fed up with the little kitten, so he places him inside a box and leaves him alone on the streets. Little Petey ends up wandering the streets really sad, that he didn't notice a truck coming at him, but Dogman shows up in time and saves him from the impending accident. Dogman feels pity for the cat, and decided to bring little Petey back to his house. He tells the cat a story who ends up falling asleep on a bed Dogman made for him. Petey is happy that he has finally gotten rid of the kid and can now focus on destroying Dogman, but he finds a storybook that little Petey wrote, titled, Papa and Me. Petey reads the book, and this causes him to feel remorse for abandoning little Petey, but even becomes more angry when he sees Dogman and little Petey together. Dogman treats little Petey with kindness. They had so many fun together and ended up becoming best friends. To get little Petey back, Petey builds a giant robot. It tracks down little Petey and takes him away from Dogman house while he is asleep. He tells little Petey of his plan to kill Dogman using a squirrel shooter, a cannon that shoots out explosives. Petey made it in a squirrel-like shape, since Dogman likes to chase squirrels. He shows little Petey his room, and takes little Petey to his own room, which is the toilet. Little Petey protests he wants to sleep with him. Petey tells him that he wants to give him the support and guidance he needs to be mean and rotten-hearted like him. When he was a kid, his dad didn't do anything for him. He got a truck, took all their stuffs and then left him and his mom all alone. Little Petey tries to comfort him, but Petey is left wondering how come he made him but is nothing like him. Little Petey replies that maybe he is, but he doesn't like that part of himself. Little Petey suggests they should go find his papa, maybe he is sorry for abandoning him, but Petey tells him that the world is not what he thinks it is. The world is a horrible place, it's mostly misery and selfishness out there. Just as Petey falls asleep, little Petey wakes up later that night, and in order to make his papa happy, he figures out a perfect idea. He activates a robot Petey made, and tasks it into finding Petey dad. Dogman wakes up and gets scared when he doesn't find little Petey anymore. He sniffs around his whole house, and even goes to reporter Sarah for help in finding little Petey. Sarah broadcasts missing photos of little Petey around the city, but still fails to find him, so she tries her best to cheer Dogman up. The next morning, Robot finds Petey dad and brings him to Petey, thanks to little Petey. But Petey dad only turns out to be a jerk, and the reason for Petey evil ways. He tries to help his dad reconcile with his own dad, but Grandpa P has no interest in changing or doing better. Petey sees this, and decides to continue his pursuit of defeating Dogman. On the other hand, Flippy the fish ends up in the living spray factory, where the gas inside causes him to come back to life. The gas went to all areas of the factory and turned the factory into a gigantic monster. Flippy the fish turns the monster to his sidekick, with the goal of killing Dogman just like Petey programmed him to do. While all these is going on, Petey attacks the city with a giant cannon that shoots exploding squirrels. Dogman dodges all the explosions and goes after Petey. Dogman defeats Petey after a long struggle, and handcuffs him to his cannon. Little Petey shows up and asks Dogman what he is doing with his dad. Dogman looks at how their body matches, and realizes that his best friend is the son of his greatest enemy. Little Petey begs Dogman to let his papa go, but if Dogman does, that he will lose his job. While he is left confused on what to do, Flippy the fish shows up with his gigantic monster. But to Petey's surprise, instead of Flippy capturing Dogman just like he was programmed to do, he instead captured little Petey. With no other choice, Petey decided to beg Dogman to put their differences aside, so they can both rescue little Petey as partners, which Dogman agrees to. Petey creates a super giant robot to fight Flippy the fish gigantic building monster. Dogman controls the giant robot, and uses his experience in kungfu to fight the building monster and finishes it up with a suplex move. After the living spray factory falls, Gas leaks out from it and spreads to the other buildings in the city to make them alive and evil as well. Dogman and Petey are defeated as their robot got smashed by one of the living buildings, and just as the buildings causes chaos in the city, little Petey heads back to his dad's lap and equips himself with a mech suit to fight the living buildings, but got defeated at the end. To remove his son from Flippy the fish target list, Petey tells Dogman to take little Petey far away as possible, while he will equip himself with the mech suit and acts as little Petey to distract the fish. Flippy carries Petey to a volcano to prepare to drop him in, but realizes that he is not a little Petey which is his target. Dogman and little Petey shows up, where little Petey uses his goodness to appeal to Flippy and be the friend that he never had. He reads a touching story to Flippy, and this melts his heart, making his evil powers wear off in the process, and all the buildings went back to normal. Petey almost falls into the volcano, but Dogman uses his beloved tennis ball to fire from Petey's robot cannon and help him fall away from the volcano. Flippy decided to summon to the cops and willingly gets himself arrested. Just as they try to arrest Petey, the mayor shows up and pardons Petey for his crime since he joined in saving the city. Petey denies that he is a good person, saying that he is evil and selfish, but now he is doing things for little Petey instead of just himself. Petey takes his son back home only to find out that Grandpa drove away with all Petey inventions, leaving the whole lab empty. Little Petey begins to share his dad's beliefs on the world, but Petey admits that while the world might sometimes be wicked, it isn't all bad with little Petey in it. The cats then walk to Dogman's house, where Petey decides that little Petey can stay with Dogman sometimes, which brings him joy and causes Dogman to lick Petey in happiness. They are all joined by the chief and Sarah, just as one last living building shows up, except it's a party building with neon lights, and everyone ends up dancing together. And that was how the movie ended. Thank you for watching, guys. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.